Welcome, everyone, to our second of four Super Bowl 60 player prop release shows. I am Nick Giffen. Alongside of me, I have my co-host Grant Neiffer here. You all probably listened a little bit earlier to Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon giving their picks. Now it's our turn to fire at the Super Bowl 60 betting board. The most important thing to know is that we understand these props. They can move quickly and they may be hard to find because of all the various markets you have to navigate for the Super Bowl. So we will be dropping quick slip links in the chat on YouTube, and Playbook will be threading the show on Twitter or X with Playbook quick slip links. So make sure to click those. It'll take you right to the prop with the sports book of your choosing so you can quickly and easily make that bet. Now, Grant, we're 9 days away from the Super Bowl. I don't know if everybody knows this, right? If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I am a Washington Commanders fan, but you're a fan of the other Washington team. That would be the one in Seattle, as you have your Seattle Seahawks hat on. What are the vibes right now for you, Grant?
I'm feeling fantastic. I was at this last game and it was just incredible. First game I've been to up there in over a decade, and oh man, felt so good. They're looking absolutely phenomenal. I think the Sam Darnold turning into a pumpkin narrative might be finally done with. Seahawks just look incredible. Patriots look pretty good too, but should be a good one. But I'm feeling pretty good about the chance of the Seahawks winning here.
Yeah, it was a great game versus the Rams. A great offensive game. Both teams, putting up a ton of points. I think the total ended up in right around 60 total points. So don't know if we'll see that much, given the total is a lot lower here for the Super Bowl. But Grant's feeling the vibes. I've been there. I've been to Lumen Field, sitting up in the Hawks Nest before. I'm sure the atmosphere was absolutely rocking. No Beastquake this year, but still got to the Super Bowl. So as I mentioned with the quick slips, we will be providing them in the YouTube chat and on Playbook on Twitter X. But of course, it is the Super Bowl. So with a ton of specialty markets, not every bet will be able to be quick slipped. I think almost all of our bets will be, but my first bet is one of those that will not be able to be quick slipped. So to set you all up, I'm just going to let you know my first pick will be at DraftKings under the game props tab. So while you're loading that up, Grant, we can get to your first pick, which of course is a widely available bet. What do you have?
Yeah, no, available pretty much everywhere between plus 140 and plus 160, I think, in every single spot. And that's Stevenson to score a touchdown at plus 160 is the best odds, I believe, over at FanDuel at the moment. Just go ahead and click the link and it'll tell you. But it's going to be interesting what the snap rate is going to be for between Stevenson and Henderson. And last week, it was just all Stevenson. I think 94% of total snaps, just absolutely massive. And he seems to get a little bit more run versus good run defenses. Seahawks have been one of the best run defenses in the league this season. He's gotten 25 and 16 carries the last 2 weeks, obviously heavily used in the receiving game too, compared to Henderson rather. Seahawks have given up a massive amount of targets to opposing running backs this season. Pretty much running backs and tight ends are where a large portion of the targets go to when with teams facing the Seahawks. So he can get it done both in the receiving game and in the running game. And even if his snap share is around his normal 60, 65%, then I still think there's some value on this prop. But if they get him up to the 70s, the 80s, and they decide to not really use Henderson too much in this spot, Stevenson at plus 160 is just ridiculous odds. I know that the total is not that high for this. I know the Patriots team total is not that high for this, but Stevenson is going to get at least good usage and potentially great usage in this spot here. So I'm rolling with it at plus 160.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, anytime touchdown plus 160 is Grant's bet. If you follow me in the Action app or saw my article or saw my tweet, my first pick was actually on the other running back. It was Travion Henderson, but that was just to have more than half a reception. And that's factoring in his lower usage. I think he's only going to see around 10-15% of the snaps, which means, like you said, Ramondre Stevenson probably going to be north of 80% snap rate like he has been throughout the playoffs. The Patriots have decided to run and lean on their veteran running back. And that really came true in the snow game against Denver, where, they trusted Ramondre Stevenson to hang on to that ball and not fumble it in the snow there. So Grant's first pick, Ramondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots, to score a touchdown at plus 160. And again, the quick slip link will be in the YouTube chat and should be on Playbook in a reply to the video you are watching. All right. So for my first pick, I gave you all a heads up. It is going to be on DraftKings under the game props tab. I'm going to go back to the well to a bet I went with last week. Now, last week I went with a sacks prop against Drake May, but instead of just taking Seattle's sacks, I'm going to go over 4.5 game sacks. You can get that minus 140 at DraftKings. And again, that is under the game specials tab. Now, if you look at Drake May, he's been sacked 62 times in 20 games this year. That is 3.1 per game. But if we look, he's been really defense dependent. He has taken over 4.5 sacks per game against top 12 defenses by sack rate. And he has taken 5 sacks in each playoff game so far. 3 games this year, 5 sacks in each of them in the playoffs, all the top 12 sack rate defenses. And Seattle ranks 11th in sack rate. So they definitely are going to be able to pressure Drake May. But the reason I like the game angle is because we also have Sam Darnold, and Darnold has taken 32 sacks in 19 games. That's a 1.7 average. So even if you're just adding up Drake May and Sam Darnold's averages, that's 4.8, which makes over 4.5 seem like it's fair. But again, we have the Drake May angle with the defenses. And on the Sam Darnold side of things, if we look at the Patriots defense, they've recorded 12 sacks in 3 playoff games. That's 4 per game. They are absolutely on fire right now in terms of generating pressure on the opposing quarterback, whether it's CJ Stroud or Justin Herbert or Jarrett Stidham. And the Patriots defense performs a lot better in terms of sack rate in games where both Spillane and Milton play full games. They average 2.6 sacks per game in those games when they have 2 of their defensive studs versus 1.9 sacks per game otherwise. Do think Spillane is not going to be missing this game. Robert Spillane, I think he's going to try to do everything he can to play in the Super Bowl. It's 1 game and then he gets all offseason. So I think both of those defensive studs are going to be out there. So I'm projecting the total game sacks for a shade over 5.5 sacks, more like 5.6, which means I have minus 200 as fair value for over 4.5 sacks. Grant, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I mean, I love it. Obviously, the Seahawks have been getting pressure at a huge rate. Like you said, May has been very, very defense dependent. Darnold always going to get a few sacks. I have him, one of the props coming up here. I think he's going to be throwing the ball a bit more. The Patriots' run defense has been phenomenal. So I see the Seahawks passing at a higher rate in this spot, which just obviously gets more potential sacks for the Patriots. So I love it.
Yeah. So Grant's first pick for this prop show is Ramondre Stevenson, anytime touchdown plus 160. My first pick is over 4.5 game sacks minus 140 at DraftKings. And before we move on to our next picks, guys, if you follow me in the Action Discord, you know this. I like drinking Tecate. Grant, we know he loves eating at Taco Bell. But one thing we both love is Action Pro. And in honor of Super Bowl 60, we're giving you $60 off of a year of Action Pro. We're going to be dropping more picks leading up to the Super Bowl, and with Action Pro, you can get real-time alerts when I, Grant, Sean, whether it's Kyle Murray, Chris Raybon, Jill Gallant, anytime we release a pick, you don't have to wait 30 minutes when the line may have already moved quickly. All that plus real money and bet percentages across to our pro player prop projections and more. That's $60 off for Super Bowl 60. Head to actionnetwork.com/pro now to take advantage of this offer. All right, Grant, it is time for our second Super Bowl prop pick. And you were on the Patriots side of the ball for the first one. Now we're going over to your Seattle Seahawks side of the ball. What do you have?
Yeah, so like I said, I think that the Seahawks are going to be passing the ball a decent amount in this spot. So I'm rolling with Sam Darnold over 29.5 pass attempts. I got it plus 102. You can find it at plus 100, but I hit it all the way up to like minus 120, honestly. And I don't even mind the latter all the way up to like 36, 38, 40. I think he's in for a decent game here. Again, like I said, the Sam Darnold is going to turn into a pumpkin narrative is kind of gone now. He's looked great in a lot of high pressure games recently. Each of the last 4 or 5 games have been extremely high pressure, and he's performed in all of those. So they trust him. He should be throwing the ball a decent amount. And the Patriots' run defense has been absolutely phenomenal so far in the playoffs. 105 rushing yards allowed off of 49 rushing attempts from opposing running backs. 31 for 18 with the Texans, 30 on 12 attempts with the Chargers, 54 on 19 attempts with the Broncos. So they shut down three straight teams. And I know they're not the real best teams at running the ball, but the defense has looked phenomenal here. Obviously, the Seahawks, one of the lowest pass rate over expectation teams on the season, but the second half, they've been passing at a much higher rate. In close games this season, Darnold has hit the over at this number in 5 out of 7 games that have been 8 points or less of win. The two he didn't was Jacksonville, where they almost backdoor covered. They were down by like 14 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And then Tennessee, which another one, they were down a significant amount. It wasn't really ever close. It was just towards the end, they finally got within a touchdown. So in close games this season, Darnold has been hitting this over at a massive clip. And this game, 4.5 point spread, should be a close game. No Charbonnet in the spot. Obviously, he's been out for the last few weeks. So that could lead to a little bit more passing. I know Walker's been getting a decent workload. He will get a decent workload in this spot, but 29.5 is just far too low, especially if you're getting it even money. I project for over 2 pass attempts over this number. So again, if you want to hit the ladder, great. But if you want to just take the straight bet, you can get it right around even money right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at Sam Darnold in his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 highest passing attempt games, I should say 5 highest passing attempt games, the margins have been 3 points, 1 point, 2 points, 4 points, and 2 points. So all of these close margin games has been, really where Sam Darnold has gone well over this 29 and a half, right? He's had in those 5 games that I mentioned at least 34 passing attempts. So if you think this game is going to be close, you're definitely going to want to be on Sam Darnold over 29 and a half passing attempts. You can get that at plus 100 odds. And of course, we're going to have the quick slip link for that in the YouTube and on Twitter and X under the action playbook, or under the playbook, I should say, video here as a response. So Grant, I'm going to go over to my second pick of the game. And I went defensive on the first prop. I'm going to go offensive this time, but maybe a lack of offense. And I'm going to take New England Patriots quarterback Drake May to have under 6.5 first quarter rushing yards. That's under the rushing tab. You can get that minus 113 at DraftKings. FanDuel has this under minus 5.5, minus 108. I still like that. And let me tell you why. He has stayed under 6.5 and 5.5 first quarter rushing yards in 14 of 20 games this year. That's 70%. We're getting this at minus 113, but it gets better than that. If we look at the top half defenses by rush DVOA, Drake May has stayed under in 8 of 11 games. That's 72.7%. And if we limit it to the top 14 rushing DVOA defenses, he stayed under in 8 of 9. That is 89%. And Seattle is number 1 in defensive rush DVOA. If Drake May does get a first quarter scramble, well, the Seattle Seahawks, they allow the 8th lowest yards per carry on quarterback scrambles, as long as they're, at least 7 yards away from the end zone, because if it's a 6 or a 5 yard rush, he's not going to clear 6.5. If they're 5 yards away from the end zone, he can't clear it anyway. So that's why I'm looking at 7 or more yards away from the end zone. And in this data set, I've also removed all the quote unquote mall Santas, as Sean Kerner has coined the term. Your guys like your, Joe Flacco's, your Aaron Rodgers, your Jared Goffs that aren't really scrambling much. So Seattle 8th lowest yards per carry allowed on scrambles. They also, on designed runs, Seattle's defense allow 3 yards median on QB designed runs. So even if Drake May does a designed run, there's a very good chance he's staying under 6.5. And Seattle, run-oriented team, right? So there could be a chance that Seattle starts with the ball to start the game, has a nice drive, running some clock, great offense here. Patriots get the ball, have one possession, and then Seattle gets the ball back and ends the first quarter with the ball, and the Patriots only have one drive. There's a decent chance of that. So I love this thing. I mean, we're talking a split that is 90% to the under almost in top 14 rush DVOA defenses. So I love this one here. Drake May under 6.5 rushing yards. What are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, thrown off for a second there. I
Yeah.
really like it. Anything that can hit that rate is absolutely phenomenal. I trust you completely. I'm fine with taking his over on total game. Rush yards, but yeah, I do like the under on the first quarter rushing yards. Obviously, second half, fourth quarter, if they're trailing, probably going to be scrambling more. Fourth quarter, he could easily hit a massive run. But first quarter, obviously, a little bit less likely. So I like it.
Yeah, got a dive bombed there by a visitor who busted open the door to my office. So that was fun there. But we'll recap our second picks here. Grant, his second pick, Sam Darnold, over 29 and a half passing attempts. And for me, Drake May, under 6.5 first quarter rushing yards. Love both of those. And we'll move on to our third pick. Grant, you're back on the Patriots side of the ball here.
Yeah, and this is just kind of a bad number given the matchup. I mean, Seahawks defense, obviously, we know how good it's been versus the run versus the pass. It's been incredible versus opposing wide receivers. I think they're number one in DVOA versus wide receiver ones, like number four versus wide receiver twos, like number 12 versus wide receiver threes. The two areas where they've given up massive amounts of volume have been running backs and tight ends, near the top of the league in targets for both running backs and tight ends this season. And they've been very good or above average at defending opposing running backs. They've been right around average to below average at defending opposing tight ends. So you have the volume, and it's actually a good spot here. And Henry has been fantastic the second half of the season. Had a lot of big games. Hasn't had a ton of volume so far in the playoffs, but Patriots, obviously, incredibly tough matchups, and they haven't been throwing the ball much. They've been more running the ball because of just the game script every single time. So I expect the volume to be there. Again, probably a trailing game script, 4.5 point dogs here. The Seahawks have allowed the fourth most targets, fifth most receptions, and sixth most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. So everything grades out really well for Hunter Henry here. Doesn't really have huge splits between man and zone defense on yards per route run, but Seahawks, like I said, they've not only given up a ton of targets, but the completion percentage for tight ends has been much higher than league average. I think it's around 72%, 73% for for opposing tight ends this season. So you can get it at 37 and a half, you can get it at 38 and a half, you can get it at 40 and a half. I honestly like it at all those numbers. And I don't mind hitting the ladder up to 60 to 70 in this spot because, again, I think there's a decent chance that they just shut down all the opposing wide receivers. And there is a chance that the Patriots get down to a big deficit early and they're going to be forced to throw because we've seen Seattle so many times this season get out to a massive lead early on, and the other teams are forced to throw at a huge clip. So I don't hate it at all. And if you want to, not a bad idea to potentially just bet his second half over receiving yards in that scenario. So 38 and a half, far too low for me. I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, and Sean Kerner has given out, some Hunter Henry props under in certain quarters, over in certain quarters. So definitely there's a lot of angles on Hunter Henry heading into the Super Bowl. But I'm right there with you. I mean, there's going to be a lot of volume and efficiency to the tight end position if Seattle does jump out to a lead. So Grant, you mentioned 4.5 point dogs, but you didn't mention how many point cats they were. So a little disappointed in you on that one. But now Grant's third pick is going to be Hunter Henry over 38 and a half receiving yards. And for my third pick, this is a fun one. I gave this pick out last year in the Super Bowl. It didn't hit, it kind of did. And I gave this pick out last week. But I am going to go to the defensive interception props, and I'm going to take Seattle's two starting safeties, Julian Love at 8-1 and Kobe Bryant, 9.5-1 to have a defensive interception, meaning they're going to have an interception on Drake May. And I alluded to last year, I gave out Eagles middle linebacker Oren Burks last year at 23-1. But the other middle linebacker, Zach Bond, got an interception on Patrick Mahomes at 19-1. So I'm not making the mistake of picking just one of the two. Give me both the safeties this time for the Seattle Seahawks. Both Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. One of those two, I feel, has a very good shot of getting an interception. Half of Drake May's 20 career interceptions have come to the safety position. If you look at last week for the Denver Broncos, Talanoa Hufanga almost had an interception, literally hit him in the breadbasket, right in his hands, in his chest. But Mr. Stonehands dropped an easy interception. So it could have been even more interceptions to the safety position. This year, Drake May, 10 interceptions in 20 games. That's half an interception per game. But Seattle's defense is so good at forcing interceptions. They have one interception per game this year, including the playoffs. 19 games, 19 interceptions. And if we look at the passes defended that Drake May has thrown that have been defended, as well as the Seattle defense in terms of the number of interceptions they have relative to the passes they've defended, those are perfectly in line with the interceptions they have, right? There's about 20% of your passes defended should be an interception. Well, both of these scenarios, Drake May passes defended has been about 20% have been intercepted, and Seattle defense, about 20% of their passes defended have been intercepted. So this is perfectly in line with expectations. There's no luck involved here, which means just a straight projection. I'd have Drake May for just under 0.8 interceptions, 0.78, 0.79, right in that range, using multiple different calculations. So let's say 40% of those, instead of 50%, go to the safeties, because 40% of May's interceptions this year have gone to safeties. Well, if we have 40% of that 0.78, right, it's just straight multiplication, 0.4 times 0.78. You favor Love a little bit over Kobe Bryant simply because Love does defend more passes than Kobe Bryant does when they play on the field together. Then I'm getting around plus 550 as fair on Julian Love, and he's 8-1. And I'm getting around 7-1 fair on Kobe Bryant, and he's 9.5-1. So give me these Seattle safeties for an interception. Grant, I'm not making that mistake of just picking one of the two like I did last year.
Yeah, you got me entirely sold. I'm betting him right after this show's done. That's gonna be a fun one to watch, and even funner because it's a win on time. I'm not one of those guys that likes to like emotionally hedge. Like I'm not going to bet $500 on the Patriots to win just so it's at least like, oh, my team lost, but I won a G. It just not how I do it. I like to bet on the team so I can just be doubly destroyed if it doesn't end up hitting it. This is going to be a fun one to watch. It makes every play even more fun with the Patriots are on offense. But yeah, the odds are just incredible there. I mean, gotta love a plus 800 and plus 950 bet.
Yeah, and Chris Raybon gave out Drake May over half an interception at minus 120 on the earlier prop show. So obviously that correlates. If May's throwing an interception and he likes that value, then I think the main thing here is it's just the distribution of where those interceptions go to has been wrong. They've gone so much more towards safeties when Drake May is playing quarterbacks. He loves throwing the deep ball, but also he loves throwing, some passes where, for example, Hufanga last week, where he was kind of the safety playing a little more in the box and was able to jump a Drake May route there, Drake May pass on a shorter route there. So Drake May just tends to throw his bad balls, his passes defended, his interceptions toward the safety position. So it's just a lack of awareness of the distribution of where those interceptions are going by the sports book here. So widely available. Julian Love interception 8-1, Kobe Bryant 9.5-1, and even at FanDuel, if you look at first interception of the game, they have Kobe Bryant shorter odds than Julian Love. So, there might only be one interception in this game. So Julian Love, if you want to take his first interception of the game at FanDuel, I don't hate that as well. I'm not making that an official pick or anything, but certainly love these guys to have an interception. You could even look for them to score a defensive anytime touchdown if they were to grab one and return it for 6. So that is going to do it for us. 3 bets each from Grant and myself, kind of 4 bets from me. But so we will be back next week on Tuesday for our prop release shows. So make sure, if you don't have it, to download the Action app and follow us there. You'll want to do that as we'll be firing our picks between today and Super Bowl Sunday. Have those alerts turned on. You'll get them instantly with Action Pro. So until our next show next week, have a great weekend, everybody, and good luck.